What's up, Vibe Ranters and Void Walkers and Dissidents? It's good to see everybody. Thanks for piling in here in the live chat. I see Ari and Kabir and Mick Mac. Who else we got? I know there's more than just those three out there. I'm looking forward to this hang tonight. It's actually a bit overdue. We got Joe Rupe. Is it Rupe or
What's
Rupe?
up?
How do you do that?
How do I do
Do you do Rupe or Rupe?
Rope. Just like rope,
Rupe.
but with a U.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. All right, I got it right the first time. Don't second guess yourself. But, Joe's one of the legends in the scene. He's been doing Lighting the Void radio and running the Fringe.fm for, I'm sure, longer than I've been doing podcasts, and I've been at it for a while. When did you start, dude?
All about, I'd say 2015. But, doing it this long and not really having that massive of an audience and being called a legend is kind of a dubious honor, but it's still cool. You know what I mean?
Hey, I consider anybody that sticks with it like you do. And I mean, actually, I guess by that metric, I should be a legend too, because I started at the end of 2015.
Yeah, dude. You've been around too, man. Yeah. I think the first show I did was like the end of 2014 or something. And I also had another show that I was doing called White Trash Guru, but I let it go,
That's probably
I let it go.
Probably.
What's up, Sudi?
Yeah, how you doing, Gabe? It's good to have you on again. As always, love you, dude.
It's a joy to be back, man. Yeah, Joe, it's nice to meet you. I'm looking forward to this one.
You too, brother. I heard a lot about you.
Nice. That's wonderful. Yeah, you got a great voice. You got such a great voice. It makes sense that you're a legend.
Lots of coffee and cigarettes, man. That's what it is.
Yes. Awesome. You should be doing you should be narrating audiobooks. It's a good time.
I've narrated a few actually. Some theosophical books, one of Anthony Tyler's books. Yeah.
Nice. Me too. I mean, it only makes sense once you got the podcasting gear to maybe knock out a few audiobooks. Good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Karina says favorite peeps to listen to on podcasts. So that's great, then. Glad to hear that. We lurk for Joe's voice. You guys are awesome. Good to see y'all here showing up. Joe, so I thought it'd be fun to just get to know you a little better. And I'm aware that you're aren't you a Mason, right?
Yeah, but everybody says once you're a Mason, you're always a Mason. But I always tell everybody you need to know that I walked away from it. Not because I don't think Freemasonry is a beautiful thing. It's because I think it's a beautiful thing, and it's especially corrupted where I'm from. So I walked away from it and dove into magic a lot deeper and went into the Golden Dawn work probably around 2013, and that blew me away because I was into the out-of-body experience before magic, right? And then so I never really looked, other than studying Manly P. Hall, Mackey, and other books. I stopped going to the lodge, kept focusing on the magic side of things,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of, I've never been in a lodge, but that's kind of my understanding is that I've read a lot of Masonic texts and the ideas behind it and the intent of the system is great. Absolutely. Yeah. And
our forefathers created sorry to interrupt you, man, but our forefathers created this country based on Masonic principles, and a lot of the stuff spiritually that we took from Egypt and welcoming all religions and understanding the energies and the egregores of all religions, So it is a beautiful thing, but there are a lot of people that get involved with it for stupid reasons, status or whatever. And it's really just about being a better man and helping your community. That's really what it's all about,
Yeah, that's what I'm into about it as well. And the syncretism element where they are able to, sort of mix martial arts, the mythologies and the symbolisms to demonstrate. That's what I'm all about is the syncretism path with symbolism and mythology. But I'm also, lately I've been on a big kick, I guess on the regular, I've looked into paranormal and fringe stuff from abductions and UFOs and, everything else that falls under that umbrella, at least a little bit for over 10 years on a weekly or semi-weekly basis, taking in some kind of content about that. But lately I've been really diving deeper into that because some stuff has clicked for me around like Jungian depth psychology and the nature of the paranormal. And so I'm glad to be talking to you about these kind of things. So you started out your fascination in these subjects from an OBE, is that right?
Yeah, from having an out of body experience. Like, so I was at work working in tech support, and I got bored, like with my corporate job, super bored. And I started listening to audiobooks, and I started listening to Journeys Out of the Body. And I was like, this can't be real. This isn't real. But the guy intrigued me. So I started trying to get out of body on my lunch breaks and after work. And I just became obsessed with it. And eventually I had what's called an etheric out of body, like projection, which we can get into that a little bit deeper, but there's actual different stages to it. So a lot of times people think that they're having an OBE, but it's really like a lucid dream or, OBE and the astral is kind of a different thing, but it's called the same thing. I look at it in a different thing. Astral travel could be, it could be Jungian active imagination if you want to look at it that way, but being able to project your etheric double, the energy body that you have outside of your human body is the really cool part of that whole thing, and it's absolutely real. There's just no objective way to prove it, which is the issue.
It's a consciousness phenomenon. There is some objective elements when you fold in, I don't know if you consider NDEs to be a similar phenomenon, but there are veridical NDEs at the wazoo.
Yeah. Yeah, but science always tries to explain that stuff away. Doctors do. And it's like, well, how do you explain the fact that they're seeing exactly what happened during the surgery? And they kind of brush it off. They don't even consider that objective, but you're right. That's objective evidence. It would be in the court of law, So I think some people just don't want to believe it, or they're scared of it.
And the funny thing is the whole scientism paradigm, materialism, is itself based off of the ancient mystery school philosophy. Like through and through. I've been putting together a lot of pieces of that lately too. But I think I want to get Gabe in here and, get some opening comments on the subjects that we started laying out.
Yeah. So a couple of thoughts. I guess I want to comment on what we just said. In science, they call it anecdotal evidence. That's their favorite phrase to broad brush and dismiss things. But like you said, in a court of law, they call it firsthand perfected knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And they're talking about the same thing. They just dress it up in different phrases for whatever serves their purpose. So I always love to empower people with firsthand perfected knowledge. And then I have a question in regards to the Masons. Like, at one point during the Protestant Reformation, I understand that throttled the Masons in a beneficial way, but the Jesuits were sent after the Masons to try to capture the sola scripta movement. Does that resonate, or what do you think?
It does a little, yeah. I mean, I don't know all of the history of Masonry, but I know enough that there were sides of the church that tried to abolish it, thought it was evil. I mean, there's history of even like the Knights Templar and the connection with that, I'll just say this, basically they were protecting things. They were protecting their families and they were protecting the secrets, because Mason is considered, at least especially back then, certain knowledge needs to be kept secret, not just handed over to the church. And it's only meant for the seeker. It wasn't gate kept, right? You could become a Mason if you searched hard enough. If you seen through the lines and you were a seeker, you would end up there, right? But the church didn't like that, parts of the church didn't like that. And then Masonry, they're called robbers and thieves, right? And these are the same kind of people that will come into a lodge. Maybe they don't get accepted for whatever reason, character reasons, who knows? And then they go and start their own lodge. I mean, there's lodges in Europe that are called vampires, and these guys are going on the internet saying, I was a Freemason and they taught me how to be a vampire, and they're not even involved. They're like clandestine, you know, they're not Freemasons at all. So I mean, that's a whole big subject for sure, but like the basic fundamentals of it are what matters. The message matters. And like history has really screwed up a lot of, the church itself has screwed up a lot of things. The church, yeah, you know, not the messages of the religions, but the churches, you know.
Yeah. Something in the conspiracy world, they tend to broad brush a lot and just group all of it into, one big catch-all. But something that happened during the lockdowns that I think people should reflect on is we found the benefit of PMAs, private membership associations. And a lot of people had to find sanctuary in PMAs so that they could make their counter arguments against encroaching on your rights with the cowpoke. So in a fun way, I just like to point out the hypocrisy of calling everything Masonic, everything evil. And meanwhile, we're all looking for PMAs to take sanctuary, because that's what I think the Masons served as, administering your will, making sure that your family's taken care of when you're gone, those kind of private agreements. They need a headquarters, even in this day and age. And we don't have to call it Masonry, but we are still looking for that techne.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well said. Very well said.
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, I don't advise anybody to join any groups lightly. I'm not involved in any groups myself, but it's ridiculous how scapegoated Masonry is. And I mean, I don't claim to know what's taught at the higher levels. I know what's in some books, but I did have a pretty interesting experience once back in, I don't know, I want to say it was like 2019. Man, that was a crazy year, where I essentially had and then I want to circle back around to your OBE while you're doing tech support. But I had this day where I was at an outdoor festival event. It was the last day, woke up in the morning. No, I think I stayed up the whole night before. Okay. Yeah. So it was like a full sleep deprivation the night before, but it's sometime in the early morning on this last day when we're supposed to be packing up to leave. I have this onset of a altered consciousness experience without substances, where the best way I could describe it is like I became a still center point that the world moved around. Even though like my physical body would like go places or whatever, my perspective was that I would think about something and the screen of my consciousness would just sort of like melt and shift until that thing was in front of me. And I was like making anything appear in front of me that I wanted to. Like at one point I was like, I am not going to be able to drive home in this state. I'm very disoriented and I don't know how the controls work. I need somebody to drive me home. And then like this swirling and happens. And then all of a sudden the face and body appears of a friend of mine. And he's like, hey man, I need a ride home from this event. And I'm like, can you just drive my car and you drive me? Because I can't drive right now. And he's like, you got it. So this it was full on. And it lasted until I turned it down on purpose. I figured out the controls and I was able to like frequency shift myself back into normal waking consciousness. But one of the weirder parts of that experience was while I was in the state, a young man, I would say he was probably less than 20, who had been hanging around my booth because I was selling art at this event. He'd been hanging around the booth all weekend, showing me his art, doing doodles or whatever. And I'm like in this weird state, but I hadn't really told people. And this kid comes up to me and he's like, my family has been in masonry for multiple generations. And I can see that you're like lit up right now. I'm paraphrasing. And I think that it might be a good idea for you to think about joining us, or would you like information about like what you could do in your area to join and learn more about what you're going through? And I was like, how do you even know I'm going through something? And at that time I was still early in like I was baby truther, right? And I thought Masons were the boogeyman. So I was freaked the hell out. And I was just like, no, go away. I can't be involved with that. But anyway, if I could replay that moment, I would have asked some questions. I'd have been like, so how do you know that I'm going through a thing right now? What is it that I'm going through? Anyway, so I just wonder if there's possible heredity to certain initiated abilities that might be kept pretty guarded, and especially the ability to like see other activated people seems to be part of the power set of the initiate. Because I know from my psychedelic days that I had that ability when I was like way out there on a psychedelic. I could like, the best way I could describe it is if there's a crowd of people, somebody else that was like at the level of consciousness that I was temporarily inhabiting, it would be akin to their head was above the heads of the rest of the crowd. There's like heads peeking up over the water. That's the best way I could describe it. And I feel like maybe there's initiates that have that ability, regularly. That's a weird story, but that's what I wanted to tell.
Yeah, I don't know what I would call that, if that's remote viewing or if that's, by location. Usually if regular Freemasons don't go out and recruit a lot, they're not even really supposed to, and you're supposed to seek out the building itself for the people, but unless it's a new lodge, right? And they don't have any members. But sometimes I could see them doing that, like if they think that you're going through something in your life, like I can tell this person's going through some type of transformation, and they want to kind of help you be a better man, so to speak. But as far as like paranormal abilities and things like that, I personally, I have family that are Scottish Rite Masons, 32nd degree. One of my uncles is an honorary degree. Like I've never heard of any, like they learn all the symbolism of the stuff, but I've never heard of, as far as the regular, Masons are concerned, like looking for or hereditary kind of, I guess, spiritual thing. Now, do I believe that like you're initiated already? Like say in your past life, you were going down this road and then you were born again, and then now you're back into this road. Like, I think that's more of a thing, than it is being associated with anything or people or groups or whatever,
The other thing about that experience is I had this innate knowledge of the quality of letters, not just like what sound a letter made, but I just had this knowing about the quality, like the esoteric quality of the entire alphabet. And that was really weird. And after that time is when my interest in language and philology started to blossom. And I feel like some weird seeds were sprouting in that moment too. But yeah, I mean, from what I can tell about Masonry and people I've talked to that have been involved with it, it seems like it's mostly just this left-brained knowledge path. What do they call that? Like, it's one of the types of yoga, like the path of knowledge, but it doesn't seem to be a whole lot on the immersive right brain experiential feeling level with it, unless I'm just missing all that.
No, they're like, you can, now I got more of this in active ceremony in the Golden Dawn, but in, Freemasonry, there are times that when you're experiencing during a ceremony, you're experiencing the understanding of what that ceremony means, like that. It's almost like being filled with the Holy Spirit, so to speak, right? So it's different than meditating or surrendering to a conscious experience. It's more like an active conscious experience. So, like during my first initiation in Freemasonry, man, I held a bunch of tears back. Like I felt, and it was just like all the symbolism was hitting me at once, but I've had that also just by meditating too, right? But a lot of the guys in the lodge I could tell they were looking at me like, what's this guy going through? Right. So like, it depends on why someone's there, most of the time. In my opinion.
Hear my wife wondering, from the other room, what your big three are, like sun, moon, rising in astrology.
Everybody wants to know that. Are you talking about, tropical or sidereal or what?
Pick
tropical.
Your poison.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
a tropical
just say tropical.
Guy.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm an Aries sun, Cancer moon, Libra rising.
Hey, it's your moon return right now. Moon's in Cancer.
Yeah.
I'm an Aries sun. What'd you say your rising was?
Libra.
Cool. You got a lot of overlap there, man. I'm an Aries sun, Libra moon, Leo rising. Very close. Cool. Well, glad we checked that off.
Yeah.
So no wonder you were like, No
bigger
wonder you're going
nowadays
through
than it's
shit
ever
during
been.
the ceremonies. And you're like, it's hitting you different than everyone else because you got
Oh,
those
yeah, dude.
Cancer moon feels, dude. Big
Yeah,
feels.
dude. Nostalgia and feeling things is my world, man. You know, like that's my world, especially in the esoteric realm, right? Like I'm not here to perform magic or manifest cars and girlfriends. I'm here to grow, dude, and feel, experience things, and like, you know, find the nature of reality and see the beauty in it and see the divineness of all this stuff, right? Like that stuff is what chokes me up, man. You know, as you spray your what is that?
Oh, dude, this is the shit right here.
What is that?
This is my friend Katie has a company called Lotus Way, and
True
they make,
Strength.
so it's like a flower hydrosol, and this one it's got a whole bunch of different flower essences. Too many to read off, but a very strong smell of like cedar in it. You just give yourself a spritz of this, and you feel like, woo,
Feel like a man.
ready.
Feel like a man.
Yeah,
Got that
and,
little musky smell to it.
we got a coupon code for this on the episode description. Not a coupon code, sorry, an affiliate link. So people can buy some Lotus Way products through that link, support the podcast. Somebody the other day spent enough in one shot that I got like $140 commission. So whoever you are, thank you for that. You basically bought one of everything in their whole shop, and I appreciate that very much, especially with our baby coming. Thanks for that. Gabe, I know you got thoughts of the stuff we've been digging into. I want to hear you hop in. Just take the reins whenever.
Yeah.
Right on. I want to hear more about your out of body experience. And I've had a couple myself, and I'm not sure what to categorize them as.
Mm.
One was spontaneous on a
PK.
kind of a field trip at an amusement park. I guess Cedar Point. Yeah, I think it was Cedar Point. Funny they were just spraying cedar over there. But and I was on the train across the park, and I took an incredibly brief nap while I was like kind of sun exhausted from a really arduous day. And I just kind of leaned my head on the pole of the train as they take us across the park. And when I woke up, my consciousness was at a minimum 30 to 60 seconds, sometimes 2 minutes ahead of everything that was happening. And it lasted for almost 40 minutes while we finished off the park and went to the bus. It was nighttime, but nothing came across my field of experience that I was not in full anticipation of. And I was telling my friends, like, somebody's going to walk across right here, a man and a woman, and they're going to have something pink in their hand. And then boom, and my friends were like, whoa, Gabe's got ESP. I was like, hold on, wait. And I was like predicting everything. And it was so lucid. And then when we got to the bus to take the trip home, I just went to sleep because I couldn't handle it anymore.
Whoa.
But it was really, what would you call that? Being precognitive.
Man, I would not like, we can get into the OBE stuff for sure. But to me, you know, at first I started thinking, so you have an etheric double, right? Like if we were to remove your etheric double out of your body, it would just be this limp piece of meat, right? And even if scientists hooked up, you know, stuff to your brain or whatever, and they've done this, you'd just flop around and it would be nothing, right? When that etheric double is set into your body, it's supposed to be tied to your body by some kind of cord or whatever. I've yet to see this cord, but they still say it exists. Now, I've never experienced in all of my studies and everything time travel with this stuff. However, we do know now that space and time are relatively two sides of the same coin. So you could go to a different area or space, you know, astral traveling in your etheric double anywhere. And I think if you were to travel far enough, fast enough, then you would actually be time traveling, actually, theoretically, right? Yeah, that's crazy, man. Like, I wouldn't exactly call that an OBE, but it might be some form of extreme OBE, right? Like that you jumped a timeline or something and saw everything and then came back or something like that. I don't know. That's pretty wild, man. I would have,
Yeah.
if
The
that would have happened to me, I would have
precognition
fixated on it. Like I would have become obsessed with it and tried to do it again, you know?
But it freaks you out when you're in it. You're like, I just want to be normal again. How am I going to go to work tomorrow like this?
Yeah.
No, dude.
And for
Yeah,
me,
some
the one
people,
that
I
I
guess.
described, Gabe, it actually, you could potentially just swap out precognition with intention. And it would be like, we have a similar kind of experience we're describing where you were interpreting it as precognitive and I was interpreting it as like intention manifestation. But maybe there's not a lot of difference to what it actually felt like, and it was an interpretative difference.
So I still have it, but particularly when I watch sports, I can see the inevitable.
You feel it
physical-
or see it?
See it when I watch
You see it.
sports. I can see,
Oh.
especially basketball. I can see the play unpack way ahead of the actual series of events, and then
Dude, we got
I
to take
can't
this
believe
guy
I'm
to
just now
Vegas.
finding this out about you.
Why are we not in Vegas right now at a blackjack table?
it's pretty.
You know?
I'm decent at football, but I'm uncanny with basketball. And I do engage it with my martial arts to some degree. But yeah, it's strange that it is even as a spectator, it kicks on pretty well.
Huh. That's wild, man. That's wild, yeah.
Tell us about your OBE, Joe.
I'm just saying, like, if that's a real thing, man, I would be in Vegas today. Right? Like,
can
just
you use it for evil? Because I
don't know.
asked that 'cause-
Is that really evil? Blackjack? I mean,
well, I asked because I have this kind of bizarre ability where when I'm doing biofield tuning sessions for people, where the stuck energy is at in their field, I get like a signal in my head when I go over it. And I can also use that same ability to like lay out piles of cards or individual tarot cards and pick the right card. And I've tried to use that in games against my family and I can't do it. I can't use it to cheat, but it works 100% of the time when I'm using it for like a good purpose. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of a lot of the religious or a lot of the initiated traditions of the ancient world too. Like Freemasonry is about being a better boy. Well, I think maybe some of these abilities or the cities are in some way related to our alignment with universal morality or natural law.
Yeah, it makes me think about Edward Casey. Man, they almost killed that guy when they realized that he could do what he was doing, you know, when it's, oh, this is real, right? Like people were coming all over his life and he trying to get predictions for the stock market, the horse races, you know, things like his wife would like protect him and stuff. And I mean, he was right about some of those things too, but it would drain, like people would drain the hell out of this guy after they started realizing he could do these things, you know? So maybe, you know, but even if you went to Vegas and it worked, by the way, you would only get so far before they would ban you from the casino anyways, because they'd be like, we know this guy's doing something, you know?
Yeah. I steer clear from gambling very, very adamantly. It draws me. I can sense a lot there. Another strange thing I have is like, I'm that weird guy who can like throw a piece of trash over his shoulder, bounce it off of two walls and land it in the trash can without looking. I don't know what that is, but I have like,
you look like that guy.
He's in the flow. Maybe you're just in a constant flow state, dude. You know?
Yeah. I have high kinesthetic intelligence is the best I can describe it. But my buddies used to hate me for it, you know? Yeah. So I'm also an archer, and that's something that I do take advantage of with it. And I've had some pretty uncanny shots in my days. So yeah,
wow.
if I went to Vegas, man, I would lose my soul on the first minute. I would just,
you might grow your soul, brother. You never know. You know, you got to accept the dark too, bro. You're not exactly evil, you know, just because you want to have a good time in life. Don't start thinking that. Right. I mean, if you kill somebody, we could talk. Right. But like, you know, just throwing $5 on a deck of cards, man, and then let it ride. I don't know. You know, that's fun to me, you know.
It's got some gravity. It's definitely got gravity.
Like I'm not really any kind of what do you call it, man? I don't have any gifts, like spiritual gifts, right? Like I think what I can do, everybody can do, right? But if like this stuff is real, I would take 4 or 5 of you like spiritual X-Men, and go to Vegas, and then just we could all change each other's lives and then come back and do this again. Right? Like why not? I mean, I don't want to take everything too seriously.
I don't think I would ever be down to go to Vegas again, but maybe as part of the spiritual X-Men, I'd do it.
And document the whole thing, And if it don't work, you could always be like, well, I guess spirit doesn't want us to, at least we have to go to Vegas, though. You know what I mean?
Well, Booty Yoga says material gain is the opposite of spirituality, but I don't know about that.
I don't know. I don't. Material obsession is the opposite of spirituality.
And obsessive maybe, but I think that delineation is really priest jive. It comes from the same place that says that the material principle and the physical world, the physical body, the darkness, the feminine, that those things are the evil, and the masculine, the soul, the light, the consciousness, those are the mind, that those are the good. And I don't really buy that. I don't actually see, in my experience, all that much separation between spirit and matter.
No. They work together. And I mean, deep in Freemasonry and Kabbalism and in even Eastern mysteries, you learn this stuff. Balance is the key. Just like in a battery, your highest energetic point is your balance point. If you let things, how do I put this? Like let's say you become a doormat and you're actual passive and spiritual and you're just this doormat, well then evil becomes unchecked, right? If you're too severe all the time and you're too active and you're too materially focused, well then you're an asshole. Pardon my French, but you are. But you need both to grow your spirit. Just like when you grow a plant, it needs balance. It needs all 4 elements. And all 4 elements is the key to actual love and how you take care of yourself and others, right? And this is what we learn through relationships, because we all got different temperaments and elemental natures, and we fit each other differently and we alchemize each other, but it's all learning about that balance. And if you weren't supposed to have fun and enjoy life, consciousness wouldn't have created things for you to do those things in life,
Here.
It sounds like, what is that movie, The Devil's Advocate, where the devil's talking to him? He tells you to look, but don't touch, that kind of thing. And he's blaming God or whatever. But, the grand architect, the creator or whatever, created both alpha and omega, for you to grow like a plant in between. So, just don't be a jerk, like that's it. Have a good time, but don't be a jerk. I mean, we're only here temporarily anyways. It's just a ride.
Right.
Do you think, I'm just saying, do you think consciously God would put you here, creator, whatever you want to call it, and just be like, all right, now go over in that corner. Yeah, there's palm trees and oceans and bodies and pleasure and food and sex and what I created that, but you go over in that corner and you put your nose in that corner and meditate until you're dead, right? I don't think so.
Chance, you kind of helped me out with that false dichotomy quite a while back, and I just want to thank you for that. I used to, much like Buddha Yoga said there, I used to subscribe to the mantra, the maxim of spiritual, technological wealth breeds spiritual poverty, or the inverse.
I know, dude, that was manifesting in all kinds of chaos for you to do this work.
Yes. And I really have taken on your advice. I'm moving into the technological, and and there is a balancing act still, but it's just about not neglecting the abundance that is available to us. And so that lack mentality of either or, in fact, it's just you don't lose anything in your spiritual, which you do have to work more to maintain your spiritual if you're delving into that technological. And that's happening for me in my horizons. I can't believe how large they get and how far they're going to go.
Well, that's just me doing my job, man. I'm here to help people tweak their personalities for the better. And this actually would love to make a comment on this because like this just came up in a recent tuning session for somebody where very, very common, especially dudes around my age, as this person was, to have like kind of nice guy-itis where the anger spectrum is completely nullified in their energy field, like not allowed.
What? You can't do that to yourself. I mean, you're
No,
putting
you
holes
can't.
in yourself.
It doesn't. Well, I don't know if he was all that holy, but my point
you know what I
is,
mean,
like,
though. Like it's not natural.
it's not natural,
Yeah.
and the same with the. It's no different than the ascetics of different religious cults, like the guy that has to hold his arm in the air for the rest of his life, or the breatharian path and things like that, where it's all about all this like repression or restraint. And that's, complete nullification is not balance either. I mean, you can go too far. I'm quite the 7 on the Enneagram. That shadow of gluttony is a thing, but enthusiasm is a thing too. And the point I wanted to get across here is when you have like this sort of dogmatic or doctrinal restriction that says you got to stay within this narrow path and these other things are out of bounds, not allowed. You can't feel that. You can't look at that. You can't do that. That is not the same level of power and agency as if you allow the whole spectrum. Like, because the person that's in this narrow bandwidth or this aesthetic path, they're like, I am incapable of evil because of my beliefs. I cannot do evil. But that's not really true. And that's a level of denial. It's not that you should do evil, but it's that the really authentically moral man, fully realized morality is the knowledge that like I know exactly what I'm capable of, for the good and the evil. And
Absolutely.
you just write off an entire part of the spectrum of the emotional range, like anger. You're also writing off the full potential of your ability to desire, your ability to love, your ability to assert and, have healthy aggression, potentially something that could come in handy in a role as a protector or a father, for example. So you gotta, maybe this is just me becoming a dad soon, but like, I'm ready if I gotta uncork the anger and like whoop some ass
Hell
to
yeah.
save my little daughter, I would, I'll do whatever evil. And I think that that's okay. Like, I mean, I say that it's hyperbole, right? But just saying like the important thing is not that you choose to do something evil, destructive, or negative, but that you accept that range within your
You have to
potential.
sometimes.
Like that, I have that option. I could do that. Not that I will, but I could. And then that's also like, the low part of your potential range. It's like a waveform in sound. Your high is going to match the low. So if you're allowed to have this low in your potentials, your high peak is going to be more like you can reach to a higher peak too. Hopefully that makes sense.
Sure, yeah. You have to, man. My son's 20 now. I had to teach him everything you just said so that he can take care of himself too and his family and the people that he loves, I get that for sure. You absolutely have to. But I think if you want to go to the tarot and look at this, you not necessarily the Thoth deck, but the Rider-Waite deck, you just look at the Devil card and the Lover's card, and every energetic Sephira on the Tree of Life is in both cards, except one is more focused and obsessed with their desires and fears and the material world, and the other one is more free, open, and authentic and led by spirit, right? The biggest power that Creator gave you on this earth was your choice and the ripple effect of your choices. Everything else in nature is doing what it's told to do, or basically, reacting on its animal nature. The divine part of you isn't that way. You can choose, create empires, do all kinds of things, right? And the Lover's energy is all you got to focus on, and try to stay away from that Devil card. And there's a double cubed altar in that Devil card, and they're chained to it, but it's a loose chain. And the desires and the fears of their life are burning them up. It shows them on fire. and they think that they're trapped. The bat wings makes them think that they're trapped, right? Because he's the prince of the air and the mind, and he's keeping them trapped there. But all they got to do is take it off and follow the angel and the lover's card. But they're both naked. Remember that, right? They're both naked. So I would just study both of those cards, in my opinion, if people start feeling like, well, I don't know if, I don't want to be too material, and I don't want to be, just studying both of those cards can help you learn a lot of balance, in my opinion,
Just inhaling that one.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Joe, something I do with the tarot cards, I stage them around the Enneagram numerologically.
Interesting.
And so the lover's card, being number 6, is in the 6th position of the Enneagram. And also the devil card, being 15, it sums to a 6. And so those two cards are side by side in my perspective. So I like to think of it as like, and the 6th personality is a loyalist with a shadow of fear and a remedial virtue of bravery or courage. And I love the word valor. And so those are kind of the alchemical pieces that I see there. And I like to kind of summarize it as the lover's card is marriage and the devil card is divorce.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could look at it. There's a lot of symbolism in those cards, man. A ton of, Arthur Edward Waite in his deck purposefully hid the Kabbalistic symbols because the Golden Dawn instructed him to do so. He wasn't supposed to reveal that stuff. Crowley, when he made his deck, didn't. He revealed everything. Not only that, the colors of the trees and where this energy is on which tree and the colors that they correspond to. That's why the colors are the way they are in each card. So if you look up, well, what is this path on the tree of Asaya or whatever, because there's 4 trees, you'll see the exact color to that card too. All the different colors in that card, they put it in there, plus all the God forms. But Crowley also threw in on top of that his the sexual tantric side of alchemy into his deck too, which Waite kind of really didn't do. So it's a beautiful deck. I have that same deck too. I love it.
You know what? I've never got learned about the 4 trees of Kabbalah.
Oh man, they're everything.
I only knew about the tree and the klipoth below. Can you tell me more about this? This is new to me.
Yeah. So the actual, so we're not talking about the tarot before before 1888. Let's talk about the Rider-Waite deck on up, right? There are 4 worlds in Kabbalah, right? Atziluth, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asaya. Basically, right? The archetypal world, the creative world, the astral world, right? And then the earthly world. This is what we would call the primal elements, or the primordial elements. Yod, He, Vav, He, earth, air, water, fire, but not in that order. It'd be fire, water from the top down, kind of like fire, water, air, earth, right? Things manifest this way, magically, but we also grow spiritually this way too. There's a tree in each world, right? And Dion Fortune and a lot of these guys, they knew the secrets of this stuff. So all of the 1 through 10 cards, there you go. So let's say Asaya is the earth, right? All of the earth cards, 1 through 10, correspond with their energies correspond with those Sephirah, right? All of the earth cards. When it comes to the court cards correspond to the parts of the soul, right? So we're not talking the 1 through 10. Now we're talking the Neshama, right? The Ruach, the Chia, the parts of the soul. Okay. So, and Crowley did this perfect because he put the knight in Chokmah instead of the king, which represents Chokmah way better. The princesses on the earth, the aces are in Kether, the queens are in Bina, right where they belong, and the princes are in Tifereth, where the Christ energy is. The balance, the ultimate balance of everything is Tifereth. So that would be all of the earth cards belong in that tree. All of the fire cards belong in that tree. The top tree. The water's the second one down. Air is the third one down. This was the secrets that the Golden Dawn kept in the tarot, right? So you can learn everything you need to know about the tarot, every single energy that was ever put into those cards from the Rider-Waite deck on up by studying the 4 worlds and every aspect of the 4 elements and where they belong on these trees. This is hidden in Freemasonry too, but the Freemasons didn't talk about it, right? Not till you got way, way, way up there in some other group. And this is why these Freemasons, Samuel Mathers and these guys, broke apart, created the Golden Dawn, developed their attachment to like Rosicrucianism and Theosophy and, you know, all these things, and delve deep into the mysteries. And it was the first order that was ever co-Masonic, because you need both masculine and feminine for the magic to work. So this is where women like Dion Fortune, Florence Farr, some great women in magic got their names because they were one of the original members of this order, you know. And it was all kept secret until Israel Regardie and Aleister Crowley were like, let's blow the lid off this thing, man, you know. And dude, like this, my spiritual path, I would say, as a Hermetic Kabbalist, this stuff is massively important to me. And it's taught me so much, man. And the OBE world and everything about it corresponds right along with it too, you know.
I'm into this. Learn us some more. How does the OBE world correspond to Kabbalah?
First, Hermeticism goes like this. The Emerald Tablet, the original Sardis Emerald Tablet, not the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. The mother is the moon, the son is the father, its birth is in its loins, whatever, as above, so below, as within, so without. This is absolutely true. Well, all of the Western mysteries pick this up. The earth, right? The moon, the sun, and the stars. Moon would be considered the first degree if you look at it that way. This is where you're being born again, reprogramming the unconscious things. You're consciously programmed by your fears, right? Magic is only the first stage of the mysteries. It's not all the mysteries. It's just the moon. That's what magic is. Learning the 4 elements, reprogramming yourself, invoking the astral elements into your physical self, you know, for that plant, right? Growing that flower. And then once you rise above and become an adept and get into the inner order, the solar work, right? That's alchemy, turning lead into gold. And you study the planets, right? And you do a lot of astral work. In other words, they built a vault for this too. So they would go into the vault, scry into a symbol, move into the astral world and do their work, right? Same thing with the old alchemists. They would create pictures that we see today that are beautiful, but they're actually meant for scrying, right? To look at, to gaze into, and kind of astrally go into them and do the work in the laboratory. The laboratory is actually your body. First, your earth body. Second, your etheric body. And third, your astral or star body, right? The moon, the sun, and the stars. Hermeticism is magic or theurgy, alchemy, astrology, the moon, the sun, and the stars, right? This is all of the Western mysteries, and they all, whatever group they want to call themselves, the Rosicrucians, Freemasons, they all got it from Hermeticism, right? This is where they got this from. They started picking the Kabbalah up because they realized that the Kabbalah was the keys to these mysteries somewhere back in, 1200s, 1300s, but we can only trace it back so far. But a lot of us know that this tree goes back way, way back, just as far as the flower of life goes back, So,
well, I mean,
this has been my whole world, man.
The mythology around the Kabbalah is that it was Seth, the son of Adam, created this system.
Man,
mythological.
That could be. It could be, but
it's just a way of allegorizing that it's been with humanity from the beginning, potentially,
sure,
for as long as people have known.
Yeah.
Which to me kind of fits my worldview. That like the nature of truth is that it has to be somewhere in reality and accessible to you if you just choose to remove the filters that you've put up between you and it. Like if, knock and the door will be opened type of deal.
Yeah. Dude, I could talk about this for hours. It's a deep, deep subject. But look, here's the thing. If let's say Valdoon in the 1920s or Robert Monroe in the 70s met up with like Israel Regardie, Dion Fortune, or Aleister Crowley, and they started talking. So you got these guys taking a scientific approach to conscious exploration. I love it. It taps into my left brain perfect, and that's how I had an out-of-body experience. Then you got these guys talking about the same experiences through the tree and magic, right? And through these 3 stages of the mysteries. I love it. My right brain digs it, right? When I read both of these, what they experience are the same things, the synchronicities, the ethereal body, the way out there, astral travel kind of stuff, the chaos of it all, you know, coming in contact with the higher self in different ways as they're going through these things. I really think it might be our job, at least I feel like this personally, to keep this thing going, to evolve it further, the mysteries, to get a deeper understanding of them. Not throw the history away, but take what we've learned from all of it and keep evolving it, you know, to understand this. It's a fascinating thing, man, you know. Slick.
Yeah, man, I'm loving this. We totally opened the door and the floodgates are pouring gravy all over the place. What would your recommendation be to tap into Israel Regardie's work? He came across my radar in the past couple of days, so I take this as a symbol on the path.
Oh man, all of his work. The Tree of Life would be a good starter book, you know. The Golden Dawn, the complete work, is more like a textbook. The 1 year manual.
This cat's name? This is my first
is like
time.
Israel, like the country Israel, and then Regardie, R-E-G, A-R-D-I-E. He's a snooty little youngster, you know, when he started writing this stuff. But you know, he wanted to be in the original Order of Golden Dawn so bad. He wanted Crowley to teach him so bad. But he was so ambitious, man, and he learned a lot. I think he became Crowley's lover at some point. You know, he let Crowley kind of take him over. And then when he realized how dark and manipulative Crowley actually kind of was, then he later kind of resented the guy, you know?
Yeah, that's what I heard. They had a parting of ways. I want to say something kind of schizophrenically informed. Chance, you know, the N to the R switch, which is it's one of the most embarrassing switches in the philological lockpicking.
It is. Like, just think about switching the word R and N in the word work. Now you're wanking.
Right.
I'm lost on this one.
Yeah.
There's a thing in language in philology called a rhoticism, where between one alphabet to another, sometimes the letter R becomes the letter N or vice versa. So it's one of those letter swaps you can do to syncretize like names of deities or things of that nature.
Yeah, I call it the philological lockpicking. And if we allow,
like bar and ben in Hebrew both mean sun. That's a R-N switch.
Yeah, that's a great example. Perfect example. So if we allow one of the R's in Regardie to turn into an N, the whole name is an anagram for dragon.
Wow. Interesting. Maybe that wasn't his real name. Who knows? I mean, maybe he made it that for that. I don't know. I love all of those books though. Dion Fortune's books, amazing woman, a very magical person, best book ever written on psychic self-defense, you know. She gets past all of the hoopla about most of psychic attacks and all these things, and really it tells you the truth of it all, you know. And everybody has their own systems, but I see everybody going through the same things, no matter what system they're going through. You know, there's a masculine and feminine play inside each person that needs to be worked out. And these 3 stages that they're working out always: the moon, the sun, and the stars, right? Magic, alchemy, and astrology. People think we got a big fascination with magic, probably starting about 2019, 18, right? People were just fascinated with it. But it's only the first stage of the mysteries. And then when you talk about that, even Carl Jung understood the deep reprogramming that needs to happen to a person, because we'll do anything. We'll even do all kinds of spiritual stuff just so we don't have to deal with ourselves. That's what Carl Jung said, right? But the thing is like, people want to just be up there. So when I started noticing this, I'm like, well, I'm still going through my work, which is in the elements. Oh man, I'm past all that. Everybody, I'm past all that. I'm up here, dude. I'm here. I'm like, okay. Right. But an adept you can notice a person's aura isn't just the glowing thing around them. A person's aura is everything that's materializing in their life. It's the way that they're living. It's everything about them, their garden, everything, right? Not just the glowy part around them, and you could just see, I just see everybody going through it, everybody.
It's all layers of the psyche. It's like your body reflects your psyche, the clothes you wear, the home you're in, and everything just on out.
Yeah. And I think I went on a podcast one time, and
that's where the young stuff comes in. So interesting, because I wanted to like, at some point bring up with you, in terms of paranormal experience, how in-depth psychology, there's the idea that the psyche has layers, right? There's the conscious mind, there's the unconscious, there's archetypal elements, and as a cosmology, in an idealism framework, getting opposed to materialism, that would, in the fractal man as the image of the cosmos sense, then the universe would have layers to it, similar to our conscious mind, unconscious mind, and etc. So in that sense, there's unseen realms potentially of information, of experience, of aspects of self that in the Jungian worldview, the physical material reality is actually one of the densest and most immovable or difficult to shift layers of the individual's psyche, right? That all the contents of out there are the deepest, most solid parts of the in here, in a sense. That's why they're so anyway, my point being, where I wanted to go with this is how the contact experience, whether it's aliens or angels or demons or fairies, may represent capacities of the human being or the human psyche, powers, cities that are bursting through the seams of repression in the form of these externalizations to wave at us and say, hey, you can levitate. Did you know that? We're the only way you're going to allow us to experience or allow yourself to experience levitation is in this freaky being hovered out of your bed by gray aliens type of way. Because you heard about that on the X-Files, but so that's part of your psychic landscape. But ultimately that stuff is our own latent abilities bursting through the seams. That's where I've been focusing my attention lately in terms of fringe and paranormal stuff, that it's representative of that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's Carl Jung in a nutshell, right? We think this is reality, but this is really the ride, the very dense illusion ride compared to ultimate reality, Carl Jung started realizing that too, that maybe God, the creator, doesn't know who he is. It is. Maybe it doesn't. If you're all things and everything, I am that I am, and there's nothing to relate to, how are you ever going to figure anything out or know anything? Well, or experience anything. We have to go within, right? So really, we're just in God's dream anyways, right? That's what this is, so to speak. Carl Jung kind of understood that. His red book is fascinating. And now that the black books are out, we're not even supposed to, we technically weren't supposed to read that stuff, right? But he's been dead long enough. They were like, we'll just, let him go. And it's an interesting journey to go through for sure. Yeah. I love Carl Jung's work, man.
Yeah, man. I see Carl Jung as a bit of a gray pope.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's hard to find a therapist that goes along with him too, or, I think everybody should have some form of like relation in therapy. If you talk to yourself, no matter how smart you think you are, right, eventually you'll become narcissist himself. That guy in the mythology, narcissist.
The
you know?
problem with the psychologists and even like Jungian depth
Yeah.
psychologists, and it's not their problem per se, but this type of thing that we're talking about right now, it's very similar to what you consider initiation or masonry or other secret societies, that you actually, this type of information or this type of thinking can't even become exposed to the individual until they've peeled off a certain layer or two of repression in the first place.
Yeah.
So you can't just like, someone can't just come along and be like, hey, I'm going to dust off your, the twisted tangles of your psyche.
Man.
You have to find it. You have to ask for it. You can't get any. That's why the Platonists describe learning as remembering, because that's essentially what we're doing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Think about that word too.
Remember?
Yeah. It's exactly what we're doing. We're remembering. We're not here to learn anything. We're here to wake up, so to speak. Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What?
It's okay. No, this is all in the same flow. I have a redemption song to sing for Narcissus. Oftentimes there are certain little aspects of the Greek myths that are conveniently left out for the masses to consume. A couple little factors. I like to say Narcissus was framed, which is true because he's seeing himself in the frame of the water. But one detail that slips through the cracks so often is that his twin sister had died just the day before. And so when he saw his own reflection, he literally believed this was her likeness from the other side, admiring him in return. And another component that really set him up was that his fondest admirer was in the woods looking for him. Her name is Echo. And Echo had been cursed by Hera because Echo was recruited by Zeus to go and talk Hera's ear off so that Zeus could gallivant with one of his, endeavors. And Hera found out that she was being distracted by Echo. So she cursed Echo to only be able to repeat the first half of a phrase, I believe. And so Narcissus is talking to what he thinks is his own sister in the mirror or in the waters, and Echo is behind him repeating only half of his own words back to him, and somehow his word choice is the perfect leading himself into convincing himself that his sister's actually talking back to him. And then he withers away and dies. And so often the same thing happens if you go in depth with Oedipus. If you go in depth with Oedipus, you realize, wait a second, the masses have it all wrong. They're all seeing the story wrong. You got to get in and do the work. And there's this, it's a high grade irony that the Greeks are always at. They're always at this level of irony. But I just wanted to convey that because it does change a great deal. But when you said, if you talk to yourself, you'll become Narcissus incarnate.
Sure. Yeah. It's an invocation of Narcissus. If you think about it that way.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what you're doing. The Golden Dawn, it has this method called the invocation of God forms, where you're taking on the energy of an archetype, right? You do that we do this all the time anyways, right? So whether you know it or not, that's what you're doing. That's just why everybody's talking about narcissism. There's a lot of astrological Aquarian, Plutonic, energy going on right now, but there's also like everybody in their own world kind of thing right now. And it's supposed to happen, but what we're actually doing is invoking that energy. The more we look in the mirror and talk to ourselves, doing it right now.
Man, that is so sinky. You said that on 7/22, Pluto was in Aquarius, and the moon passed over and Biden went off the radar. I think
Yeah.
we've had a doppelganger ever since. That's so sinky that you said that.
I just don't talk about it a lot because I find a lot of people, and this is cool that we're talking about this stuff, but
Holy shit!
it's
President
just they're
Trump is
so
here.
off. Like, oh Jesus Christ, you know, they're so off, dude, about certain things. It's like I don't. It's not that they're wrong. It's just like, see, I don't even like talking about this, right? I've made it a point to where like I'm just trying to stick to the OB stuff because the mystery thing, everybody's kind of going through their own thing, you know, and it gets real confusing the more we like talk about it. But it's really cool though. All of it's really really cool, you know.
You know, I recorded a very long episode this week and released it on my YouTube channel, and it was not good enough. And I was, reviewing it and trying to edit it down. And I'm like, no, 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 I can do better. But very much like you said, if you talk to yourself long enough, you become narcissies. And there's something about watching your own work and reflecting back and being like, no, I can come correct. I can get this
Yeah,
even better. And I had to sacrifice myself, my own reflection, and be like, no, I can knock this out of the park in one shot. So
yeah,
and that's kind of a cool thing. We do have the ability to, almost, I'm not doing therapy, but I could see it being utilized for that, where you could actually
sure.
have a conversation with yourself and watch yourself reflect. And then, there's some betterment to that.
If you read Rigardi, he tells people, not just Rigardi, but he's one of the big sticklers on this. Like, if you're going to get involved into the mysteries, it's important that you get therapy. You know, however you get that therapy is up to you, but it's important that you get psychological therapy of some kind, right? Whether you're talking to a group, a person, however you do it, because once things really start manifesting in a synchronistic, crazy level, and that's how it happens when you start anything, it's almost like, holy crap, anything that you've just started for the first time, things are going to be wild, you know? But that's initiation, you know? It's just like sigil magic. The first time you do sigil magic, it's wild, right? It's so accurate, it's wild. But anyways, I'm getting off kilter here. But if you don't do that, you can become megalomania. He calls it like megalomania, kind of like Crowley did. You become so admired by who you are and this image of yourself and your power, right? That you forget that you kind of lose the idea that you're just one with everything. You're still just dust on the earth as far as the body, and your soul is still just one with everything else, you know? So that's the only downside to magic. Crowley messed up the whole. If it wasn't for Crowley, there wouldn't be so much dark stuff about ceremonial magic. I promise you. People would see
He's
the
kind
truth
of like
of
a living Baphomet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
As
for
in
sure.
a boogeyman to put in front of, in a bizarre way. It's like, maybe, are you of the opinion that his goal was to like, break the lid off of secret information and disseminate it more widely or make it more available? Because
I think that was part of what he told himself that his goal was.
Because what he did was the opposite. He put himself right in as a gatekeeper of, evil, just the way that a Baphomet symbol would scare people away from, a particular grimoire that had boogeyman fear. And
Yeah.
Even like the reputation of Masonry does the same thing to bar people from accessing this information. So it's
That's no
interesting
longer-
how there's always going to be like these speed bumps of fear that in one way or the other, the excuse.
Yeah, but that's no longer a thing now. I mean, handshakes are the only secret thing. Not even the ciphers are secret anymore. There is nothing secret held anymore, right? Like it's all out there. It's all put out there. Like even in Thelema and Crowley's levels of his degrees of Thelema, when you get involved with it, what you actually have to do and go through when you get to the highest degree, that stuff, I think you're totally correct, man. Like gatekeeping that stuff, and then having people kind of go along, oh, my life's changing, I'm growing, I'm learning things, and I'm learning more about myself. But nobody said when you got to the 9th degree that you were going to have to felch or do some weird, nasty stuff or whatever, right? Like, that's when you're totally invested 8 years down the road and you understand the mysteries more. And then this guy's got like concubines and stuff. Like, we, consciousness, did this, right? Consciousness through the internet created a massive information machine to find the truth and to connect us so fast, right? So that we can get to the truth deeper, that there is no mystery schools exoterically on the earth anymore. So we know all the mysteries. Now, the only thing that we do because we're afraid is we make up, all kinds of big boogeymen a lot of the time. I'm not saying there's not bad out there, but everything is a conspiracy now, right? Because we still don't know the whole truth. Because we're still afraid.
Afraid to access it, or afraid to live like it. Afraid of what it would. This is what I see in a lot of people's energy field, is that fear of success type of deal. Yeah. But it's almost like fear of potential, of not living up to this incredible infinite potential that we have. And so just shortening your attempt in the first place, so you don't have to feel like I tried and I still didn't live up to it. But on the terms of the internet, I look at it the same way as the contact experience and fringe experience, that essentially are layers of psychic repression, or the world soul itself is shedding some of these restrictive, repressive layers on the psyche, including, and so we have, innately, as souls that are interconnected in one eternal life force energy that has no division between the various vessels that it animates, that supreme first cause, mind, if you want to call it that, Menu, Noah, Adam, the thought that initiates everything, that animates everything, that it is 100% off the chain right now. Like, it's not even blocked or repressed at all. But for us, we needed this story of, well, it's this technology, someone figured out.
It's this demigod. It's this
Black Mirror scrying device that allows us to talk across different countries and states and have this instantaneous communication. But what really is going on is mind interfacing with mind. It's no different than if we were in a telepathic phone booth, but because we can accept this story around it that we call technology, then that's why we're allowing it to happen. Just like, people will allow themselves to levitate if it's aliens doing it to them.
Yeah. But we're also learning too, through this Aquarian energy, that you can only be so fake, so inauthentic for so long until the tower happens. You can only lie for so long until the tower happens. I mean, if I could put a chart up of all of the petties and the evil people that have been caught in the past year, right? The icons, not all of them, not all successful people are this way, but the ones that really thought they were getting away with it have been caught, right? The truth comes out. That's what I love about Aquarian energy. I'm so happy that it's, energetically working with Pluto right now, because when you lie and steal, whether you're doing it to yourself or others, you take away the one divine thing that we all have. If I don't know the truth, how can I make a choice? And my choice is my divine power. This is why when people lie to us, it hurts so bad, right? Because you're taking away my divine power. You're taking away my ability to push out the ripple effect of my life and others the way I want to, and you're showing me some kind of fake thing.
And then so I don't make the right choice. Is realizing, and I let you do it.
And I let you do it. Yeah.
I invited you to do it. Yeah. And so that I can use you as the scapegoat for why I don't reach, why I don't grow. Yeah. And that's like, that's the hoops to jump through, is like,
you kind of knew they were lying the whole time, right? Yeah. Like most of the time you do, you're like, I want to believe they're not lying. Right. But You knew they were lying the whole time. You knew something was wrong about it, right? But like all of this stuff you can learn through, like when you start going out of body, let's take the mysteries away, spiritualism away, all that stuff. If you can get to where you're just projecting out of body, something happens where this stuff starts working on you anyways, right? So the moment you get into your etheric double and then you start exploring this world, the things that you're going to run into directly correspond to the work that you have to do spiritually. If when you read a lot of books,
can
it's
you give
chaotic.
more examples about that? Can you
sure
illustrate that a little more?
Sure. Well, first you have to understand, like, I don't know the levels of this. You have the physical body, then you have like the etheric double. So at night when you fall asleep, and if you catch yourself, sometimes you'll feel like you're just kind of rising up, you know, or your feet start floating up, or you feel like you're floating away, right? Well, that's your etheric body setting itself up just a little bit above your body sometimes. We do it so fast, but then after
I'll
that,
have nights of sleep where I'll like the morning will come and it'll feel like I never fell asleep, and I feel like I was just hovering above my body, watching the room in 360 degrees for 8 hours. But then when I rise out of the bed, like it's as if I slept. It's not really any different on the recuperative side, but that I experienced just a almost like thoughtless and emotionless perception of the room for 7 or 8 hours. I'm sure other people have experienced that before.
Yeah. Well, this is where it gets trippy. That place, that etheric double, that Verdun called it the phantom. Robert Monroe called it, locale 10 or 12. That's our ghost body. A lot of the ghosts people see in the paranormal are actually people in their etheric body. Some of them aren't even dead. They're just walking around in the astral realm. But that astral realm is the realm that's closest to the earth. And I'm kind of corresponding this to the tree, so to speak. When you leave that etheric double, that's when like the Carl Jungian reality sets in. Now you're into the world of the collective, where the collective consciousness actually is astral world. So everybody's fears, hopes, desires, dreams, nightmares, especially yours, all of the archetypes, everything that exists in that world, every blueprint that's about to come into creation, and every blueprint that's on its way as a prayer up to the creator to get created. This world is massively elusive. And the only way to navigate through this world, the magicians figured out, was with the symbols that the Hermeticists gave them, that they learned from the Egyptians, and so on, right? But, so a lot of the things that you interact in this world, and yes, you'll see these in your dreams too, because it's really the same world, are things that you're working through, and at certain levels of your being too. Like you may think about something stupid, like, I don't know, like I had a dream the other night, I was punching this guy in the face, but his head just kept flapping back and laughing at me, kind of like one of those dolls that just go, ha, 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 right? And I was like, why am I thinking about this? But that was something that I was working out that was closest to the earth, you know. As the dream night kept going, I had a deeper dream about a relationship that I was in. And then deeper into the night, then, you know, I'm back at my grandmother's house, right? And it's like, whoa. So this is why all of these people told you to dream journal, like write your dreams down, because you think you know what they mean, but it may be 8 months later, a year later, 2 years later. And this is how powerful and deep your unconscious is before you actually understand what it means. Like your unconscious is so powerful, man. It's like the overlord of everything, you know. Your entire
most recent
reality.
Experience that kind of is a lot quicker transmission, but reflects what you're saying is the day before Jennifer took a pregnancy test to find out she was pregnant, that I had no idea.
Congrats, by the way.
Thank you. And I had no idea she was going to take this test. I had no idea she didn't know. She woke up and felt like acid reflux and decided right then that day to take it without telling me. And surprise, she let me know. But anyway, the night before she took the test and decided to take it, I had a dream of a baby girl coming, or that we had. And we had just had a miscarriage last year. So
Yeah,
we were
those are
only
tough, man.
we were a few months away from that miscarriage. And in the dream, this baby girl was like getting drop kicked and falling down and like, all kinds of rough treatment. And she would spring up and laugh and smile and be completely impervious. So it was like the baby from The Incredibles was what I was calling it.
Right. Yeah.
And so it was like this. It was the message like, I'm here. We're doing this, and don't worry about me. I'm tough and resilient. That was the message. And then the very next day, we find out she's pregnant, and then it is a girl too. So
You're so lucky, man. So blessed, bro. I would love to have a daughter. Don't tell my son that, but what a gift, bro. Like, really, congratulations, man.
Gabe's got a daughter.
Yeah, what a gift, dude. Women are love, right? We as men, we love with authenticity and freedom, but women and the feminine bring out the mother love and the princessy love and the beauty and like all that side of love, all of it. And like, to have a daughter, that girl's going to hug your neck probably for the rest of your life, no matter what age you are, because you're the dad. I have my own selfish reasons for wanting a daughter, right? But I think that's so cool that you guys have one.
It's like you were saying that Tiferet beauty, it like anchors the whole tree, everything. And that's, in my opinion, with all of the ins and outs of philosophical schools of thought and occultism and different perspectives, one thing you can always anchor yourself on is it beautiful? Because beauty is a sense that we have. It's not like, there's some elements of things that can be subjective to beauty, but there's for sure objective beauty. So aesthetics in philosophy, if they're not there in a philosophical school of thought, you should be looking at that askew and being like, where's the beauty though? That's the most important part that should be there for anything that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
My kiddo, she's a natural top hopper.
Really?
Yeah, she keeps it optimistic, and
that's so cool.
Yeah, it's a good reason to always keep the cup more than half full. It's hard to see it as empty at all.
Right. Yeah. Man, I appreciate you having me on the podcast. It's been a long time since I talked to you, and I just heard about you through, I think, my Cherie Slick Dissident, man. She loves what you do. Yeah, she's like, you got to see this guy. He's like amazing, man. I'm like, all right. And then I saw the Enneagram, and I'm like, oh, the Enneagram. She's like, no, you need to listen to what he's got to say. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to listen to what he's going to say. So yeah, like really, if I had it my way, everybody on the earth that's interested in this would be able to get out of their body at will, and we could just go hang out in the astral realm, and do spiritual work there.
My only real OBE was on I was doing a cleanse. So I'd been, I think, 7 or 9 days without solid food.
That just makes total sense.
Vegetable broth and fruit juices and stuff, and doing some other things to facilitate a colon cleanse. And on the last,
were you on the edge of death?
No, I was fine. Like, I felt good. I had high energy. I was taking in a lot of nutrition just in a liquid form, and using some various methods to scrub out my intestines, more or less. And
sure,
that like the last day of that, I laid down to take a nap and popped out of my body completely and was floating around in my ceiling. And that's the most real conscious OBE I've ever had. And then I kind of like, maybe this, would you call it a lucid dream and not an OBE? Or I just lost the connection. But the next thing I know, I was waking up a while later. But there was a time where I just was floating around consciously, could look down and look up. And I was in the ceiling fan, and I went out into the hallway and into the living room. And then somewhere like I just lost consciousness. But I bring it up because I wanted to know, like, is there a like afterlife type goal with this development? And with that, I mean, like, is there a intention to be able to say with like practices such as meditation, things that build focus, concentration, and all that, is there the idea that you practice these things so that you can eventually, when you leave your physical body, retain your individuated point of awareness and like,
that's the
because
that's the $1 million question, isn't it? Right.
It is, because you're like, I know for sure from biofield tuning with people that your memory is in your energy field. It's not it's not your physical body. It's not some cells in your brain that holds the memory. It's about the flow of energy in your field and the bubble, with its boundaries and membranes. So like, if there was a way to retain your individuated self outside of the physical body, I would reckon it would require some kind of like almost superhuman attentiveness where you could just like hold yourself together in a way.
Let me say this from a intuitive point of view, because I couldn't tell you this as fact, right? But the key to alchemy isn't spiritual alchemy, Jungian alchemy, physical alchemy, spagyric alchemy, metal alchemy. Alchemy just works in all of reality, right? So this thing that we call the Philosopher's Stone, and the new name that you're given that the Book of Revelations talks about and all these other religions talk about, is you growing your body, your astral body, to the point of individuation to be able to move through starlight and never lose who you are again, ever. Your consciousness right now is stuck. Most of us are stuck to the lead of planets, and we're in these cycles, and we're growing. Our consciousness is growing like a plant. When it gets to a certain level, it gets plucked, and now it can move through starlight, and it never forgets who it is again, and can reincarnate into bodies and things like that. That's the goal, right?
And
so first we do
like
the magic on the earth, and then we do the alchemy in the astral, and then we learn the story and the energy of the stars, you see.
And wouldn't that be like the microcosm of the Savior in a sense?
Oh, that's every story, especially the Christ story that has ever been written, is about that.
Because if our consensus reality is a type of like dream or an allegory for a higher reality, then it could, for all we know, it might sound a little solipsistic, but for all we know, when we wake up from this dream or our body dies or however you want to describe it, then it all evaporates. I've had times where I felt like
it does actually evaporate.
Yeah. And so if you want to save the people that you love, the memories that you made, like, all of the world and everybody in it that you care about is in your mind. It's in your consciousness. So if you leave here and you just forget everything, you drink of the waters of forgetfulness, lethe, then don't all those people go with it? They poof, gone. So like, you want to save the people you love. Maybe it's important to take this stuff seriously.
Sure. I am that I am.
Or is that
actually translates
maniac
to
idea?
Yeah, no, it's not a maniac idea. I mean, if people are stuck in the astral realm right now as we speak because they love people on the earth. They don't want to leave them, Like, I am that I am means I am, meaning I am everything. That is the choice center. That's the timeline that can go anywhere. And I am is like the earth, right? So what I mean by all that crazy talk that I just said is that when you go back to source anyways, you are who you are. You don't really, source doesn't forget itself. Yeah, it individuated into chance, but chance is only an experience for source. Until you grow up enough spiritually and cosmically, because I think that I personally believe that this source, I don't have any proof of this, is trying to create individual pieces of consciousness and life everlasting, right? That's its goal right now, is to create
companions,
those things,
essentially.
Yeah, like
witness, you could even call it.
Yeah, I mean,
I say that in Christianity, you're witnessing for God.
life and light is what it's doing, right? Like it doesn't want you to keep forgetting. It actually wants you to be an everlasting living conscious being on an individual level. But first, you have to go through the process. Everything is a process in this universe, and that's what we're doing here. And it sucks. Like maybe you already are that person and you just haven't grown into it yet either. And that's when you know who you really are and what that name is and all this other stuff too. I don't know, but I'm intuitively feeling that based on all the work that I've done personally, and you know, that's what's going on here. The consciousness is trying to create life and life everlasting, you know.
So I want to reflect some synchro demystifying for you, Joe. Something that you were saying there about the OBE and developing your astral self. Chance, can you make me big? So this is what I call OBE Young Kenobi.
OBE Young Kenobi.
OB Young Kenobi. And in the moment when OB Young Kenobi is about to initiate Luke Skywalker, Luke is cleaning C-3PO, and C-3PO asks for his to be switched off, so his eyes go black. And as C-3PO turns off the sun, then R2-D2 turns on. The moon casts the blue light, and Princess Leia says, "Help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're our only hope."
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's her 3D image right there. And then the next thing he does when he realizes that it's time to jump back to action again is he breaks out the lightsaber for the very first time. And he initiates Luke Skywalker with that lightsaber. But everything you were saying about the OBE, the out-of-body experience, was harmonizing strongly because we're speaking on the spirit of young as we're having the conversation. And so this is card number 5. And in the Enneagram, number 5 is called the Observer, the OBE-server, with the shadow of greed or avarice. And with old Obi-Young Kenobi, his greed is not material. His greed is that he was withholding certain key information. He kept the key information to himself. He didn't tell Luke the true nature of his own father. I just wanted to share some of that because and then you were talking about the star body and ascending to the astral aspects, and that's the little child within. The Aeon is star. The Aeon is a child playing with the draughts, and sovereignty is the child's.
Well, you also see in that card the riddle of the Sphinx, the 4 quaternary quarters of the zodiac, the 4 elements, and the mystery and the Hierophant that's guiding you there. So in the Star Wars, the Hierophant would be Obi-Wan Kenobi or Yoda, right? We think that these people create these movies and they knew some occult stuff, but in reality, they're just expressing a truth through a medium. So when we create art, 9 times out of 10, it's going to show higher truth, as above, so below, right? So say Star Wars, for example, is an earthly creation representing a higher mystic truth. And there is a lot of occultism in Star Wars, right? There's a ton of it in there. And he shows that. Crowley shows it perfectly with the colors and the 4 quaternaries of the Sphinx and the Hierophant in the middle and the star where the heart is, about what initiation truly is. It comes from the stars down to the earth, right? And
that's our Marvelous Demystifiers project. Me and Gabe have it's on a bit of a hiatus right now. It'll come back, but we decode like comic book superhero movies.
Dude, keep doing that, man. It's all there, bro.
It's all there
of it
to
is
the
there.
point where you would have to it begs the question, like, is this intentional? Because and what I've landed on is no, there's something very primal about the monomyth and then this is what makes things so confusing when you try to mix your peanut butter and chocolate and think about, the historicity that might be demonstrated by mythology, or like another way of putting it would be, you know, the fact that these symbols exist in this culture on this continent, but then also over here, is that cultural diffusion? You know, and then some of it gets so specific that you have to just say, okay, yeah, there's some diffusion here, but at another level, like there's something. And when we examine these, like the way Gabe just demonstrated with Star Wars, it seems more like there's something coming through the seams of human creativity.
He's remembering.
Yeah.
Is what he's doing. When he looks at that card and he sees Star Wars in it, and he decodes it and he feels it inside of himself, the truth of it, what he's actually doing is remembering the higher truth. And that's what we do when we do art, right? Think about art is such underrated. It is remembering who you really are when you do art, whether it's movies, whatever. Like what was I thinking about? The Fifth Element. That's a good movie, right? Perfect. It's all in there, you know. The masculine and feminine story, the pull of spirit and the earth is also in Star Wars. It's in everything. And usually people say, well, they sold their soul to the devil when their art became famous. Well, or they ceremonially celebrated a higher truth that they remembered and were blessed because of it. So, for instance, who did Blue Oyster Cult, right? These guys couldn't get a hit to save their life until 2 songs came out. One of them is Don't Fear the Reaper. That song highly, highly symbolizes a higher truth. And even on the front, the art cover,
that truth is
they show
more
tarot
cowbell
cards
equals success.
Yeah, well, that's funny, but they show the art of what they're doing on the cover. So you got the Mason in the tuxedo with the tarot cards showing the truth of it. And in the song, they're talking about don't fear the Reaper. In other words, don't fear the cycles of Saturn. No, the wind isn't afraid of it. Nature's not afraid of it. Take my hand and don't be afraid of the cycles of life and death, right? And they symbolized it in their song, and it just took off. And everybody bobs their heads, and they're like, I don't know why this song is so catchy, but it's speaking to everybody's soul. They're remembering. You know, a lot of times that's what's going on.
Example.
You know, a lot of times that's what's going on. And then some people are afraid of it. And then when they see it, they're like, oh, they're brainwashing us. It's like, or they're celebrating a truth. It's really all how you want to look at it.
So what you're saying is that possibly what makes things become very popular is how well they reflect universal truth.
Absolutely. Especially art. Art. Yeah.
What does that say about us and our small audiences?
I'm just
kidding.
We all have our own path, and 10,000 people isn't a small audience. Stand in front of 10,000 people on a stage, Chance, and you tell me if that's small.
That's a fair point. Yeah. I was just kidding about that anyway.
It's not small. It's just everybody's at a certain level of influence, whether they're in their whatever nature they're in, you know, and that includes even the dark artists. They're all here for a reason, you know, not excusing them or anything like that, but it all comes back to love. Everyone's going to get that understanding, whether they like it or not. They can go kicking and screaming, or they can go peacefully. Right? It's really up to you.
I want to just take a moment and acknowledge Laura on Rockfin with a really nice super chat. And she said, love my favorite magic man, Joe Rupe. Chance and Gabe, you guys are awesome. So, man, what I'm thinking is like, I can't believe this is the first time I've had you on my channel. It's kind of.
I think I've been on here before, haven't I?
Really?
A long time
I don't
ago.
think so, dude. I don't think so.
Really?
Maybe. I'll double check.
Maybe I had you on my show. Maybe that's what
I've been on yours like twice, I think.
Yeah.
But maybe, yeah.
I've become entirely too narcissistic on my show. I just talk to myself and beg people to call in most of the time now.
Sounds good. Well, I'll come back on whenever you get fired up again. I think you're taking a little break right now, right? But
No, I'm still doing it. I'm just going through. I'm just streaming mainly.
are you doing that right after this?
Oh yeah, 9:00 every
Wow.
night on my time. So
Nice. Well, maybe we wrap up a little bit from now, so you have a bit of a buffer.
yeah,
But,
you can do that if you like.
let's just because I'm feeling a decent break, like wind down point here. But let's do more together, man. I'm really enjoying this hang, and I think everybody is. Not that we have to like just cut it off right this second, but
No.
you know, if there's closing thoughts we want to bring,
I don't have any plans. I should take some notes for you and plan out my stuff a little bit more. I usually, when I do stuff, I just hit a button and I'm like, oh crap, here we go. That's what I do. Yeah.
I got loads of notes. I'll just bring notes to you. Like, especially somebody as yourself, I'd really love to talk about research I've been doing lately on the world ages doctrine. You know, that'd be fun. I'll come on and talk about that stuff and see what you think about it.
Yeah. And I got to watch more Slick's videos too, get into this Enneagram thing, you know?
Yeah, it's an initiation in and of itself. Slick Dissident YouTube channel.
Yeah, man. Hey,
we call it
every time
schizophrenia.
I learn something new about those cards and what is hidden in those things every freaking like 6 months. You know, I think I understand every symbol and energy in a card. You know, I've got the planets, the astrology, the Kabbalistic, the element. I got it. The masculine, the feminine. I got the whole thing, right? And then someone comes along. Oh, this is also in here too. And you're like, oh my God, I gotta start over.
Let me toot your horn a little, Gabe, because like what you've done is cracked the generative aspect of intelligence. It's 2 words. It's intellect and generation, intelligence. And how intelligence seems to work, from what I can tell, is through these systems of correspondence or correlation. And then these create memory links for us to access information by like, this reminds me of this, reminds me of this, reminds me of this. And what Gabe has done is taken the ultimate template of correlation, which is the Enneagram, the qualities of the numbers 1 through 9, and then applied that every which way to Sunday at everything that he looks at, you know, and sprinkling in Zodiac and sprinkling in tarot, major arcana and all that. But like, this dude is taking the creative side of intelligence, the generative side of it, building his own tables of correspondence, adjusting things as he will. And Gabe, the audience knows, very few people have access to the full depth of wisdom that they've consumed, you know, as like over their life as Gabriel. Like, he just pulls things out, and the normie would just be like, how are you schizophrenic? How do you know this much stuff? Where's all this coming from? And I think that it has to do with his active participation in correspondence. And I love that about him. So yeah, you guys should know each other better.
Yeah. Thank you, Chance. That's awesome. That's awesome advocation. I appreciate it. You know, I was thinking PK informed me that Wittgenstein bragged that he never read Aristotle. But nice, paranoid. Wittgenstein bragged that he never read Aristotle, but he was still throttled as a philosopher. And it's almost like saying, I never read the manual, but I'm already building cars that can fly.
Sure.
And to some degree, I have disregarded the instruction manual on the tarot and found what my demonic resonance brings forth instead.
Right on, man. The truth is the truth. It's there, man. You pull it out however you want to pull it out.
Exactly.
You know? It's self-evident always.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of what you were bringing tonight about the trees of life, the 4 trees of life, I love that. I absolutely love that, because that just fulfills a lot of, like you were saying, the things I never would have lensed it through. So tonight was really helpful. I appreciate all that. I'm gonna be going through the 4 trees of life for sure.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. The four trees, all the Sephira, what they mean, and then like the parts of the soul and where they are on the tree. That's kind of how they actually made their whole magical system based on the tarot. You know, the tarot card itself is the entire kind of like system of hermetics. You know, once you really look at it, Hermetic Kabbalism. if you want to look at it that way. But I think Crowley, by putting a lot of God forms and other images into those cards, kind of opened up even more doors, right? And I think you're peering into that and pulling all kinds of stuff out of it. I think it's really cool, you know? Like, we're all just remembering, dude, through our art. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, buddy.
The
Full
Fool. That's the
card.
Aries
That's us.
card, right?
Just pulled
Yeah.
that off the deck. You know,
Yeah.
cut the deck. I was like, what card would exemplify what Joe's just saying? That's called hot hands.
Mm.
I call that the hot hands.
Little guy's going off the cliff with his little dog. He's being initiated. He's taking a leap of faith, and he's guided by the sun. And everybody's going, no, that's not how it works. You're going to fall off the cliff. But he's still going.
And he's looking up. He's got optimism.
Yeah.
That's how Thales died.
Yeah.
Thales fell in a hole because he was staring up at the stars. And I think Thales invented the stock market too.
Oh, damn. Didn't know that. To check into that.
Yeah. He knew that there was a drought coming, so he bought up all the mills, all the millstones. And when the bad harvest came, he charged everybody double to rent his mills. And everybody in the world was like, this is the way.
Mm-hmm. Well, from Kether to Chokmah, that's where the Fool card belongs, right? So the first uprushing of creative energy that comes out like a spermosa, you know, in a most chaotic and faithful way. And the path from Kether to Bina is the magician. So the magician takes that energy, quantifies it through the 4 elements, and sends it down into creation, so to speak. And then you have your first supernal triangle at the top of the tree. It's pretty cool.
I think Thales might be like a Greek version of one of the 7 sages or rishis. Interesting character.
By the way, speaking of the stock market, you can do that thing that you do. Me and you need to talk. You know, I got some trades I need to make. Do you see certain trades coming down the road? Like we should have a talk. See if it works, you know.
Yeah.
If it works for that.
I have tables and tables of correspondence. Yes. And I often ponder that someday people who are into gambling will get a hold of some of my works and maybe make better use of it than myself. But
I would be one of those guys.
Yeah, there's a lot on offer. Recently, if you don't mind, Chance, I'd like to announce the slickdissident.com. It's a thing, y'all. It's a real thing. I've got my own website, and I'm working on the merch. There's a nice T-shirt up on there that's basically my logo and some of my magical accoutrement. So yeah, please come on over and enjoy. Thank you, Chance. Yeah, so that's been my magical workings most recently. And yeah, here's my most recent video. It's really fun. I'm working a whole new level of magics today.
Nice. I like that shirt. That's cool. Oh, you got some of the symbols in there on your shirt from the cards, I see, kind of.
Yeah. And some of these little logos will eventually be in part of my capoeira endeavors. I'm hoping to start up a little capoeira group when I get back to Colorado. So that's another thing I offer with every opening of my videos. I do a little bit of a capoeira music. So if anybody really digs into it, you can check my lyrics and figure out what the hell I'm saying in Portuguese on your own path.
So you're going to have him on Lighting the Void? You're going to have this guy on Lighting the Void, huh?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I got to get one of those lighters. Those things are cool. Yeah.
Yeah, when I found Gabe, I was like, I need you all the time. And so graciously, he hangs out most every Wednesday. You know, occasionally he might have to play hooky, but man, we're just grateful for your presence, dude. And Joe, one thing with this Wednesday live stream is I kind of have like a stable of regulars, and depending on who the special guest is, I might pick out one of those regulars who I feel like would would ask them really good questions, and they bounced things off each other nicely. So I want to hang with you more often, man. So if you're game, watch out for some random invites on some Wednesdays, because
Sure.
you're good.
Well,
dude.
Juan's got me playing video games with him on Tuesdays. I'm not doing anything on Wednesdays besides my show, so you never know. You hit me up, I might be able to come on. Right?
Yeah, that's actually what reminded me that like we needed to connect. As I heard you on Juan, and I was like, oh man, what am I doing? Joe's cool. Let's hang. And,
yeah, he's like, I'm having a watch party tonight, but you're doing Chance's show, so, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going on Chance's show, right? But no, it's cool. I mean, I kind of think that you find your people when you find your people, how you find your people. So I'm all for it, man.
And what's on tonight with Lighting the Void Radio?
Well, I mean, it's just going to be me going over like the OG book of out of body experiences from Verdun that I found the other night. And I'm like, oh, there was a guy in the 1920s that was talking about this stuff. Imagine being an OBE guy in the 20s, like how hardcore that is. And this guy has had just as many, if not more, out of body experiences than Robert Monroe. So he's got a whole skill set of knowledge in that book. So sometimes I go through books. Sometimes we listen to the Explorer series. Sometimes I fall asleep while I'm supposed to be talking. I don't know. It's fun, right? It's a fun thing to do.
But you're not sleeping, you're practicing. And you can
I'm just experimenting on the stream basically right now. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I've had a blast, and people check the show notes. Let me dig up the link real quick too. The Fringe.fm.
Yeah,
right?
I have my own
URL.
That's the station site, but my shop is ltvpodcast.shop. That's new, by the way. But
cool. Popping that in here. So you guys can just kind of follow right over, and later tonight Joe will be doing what he just said, and he's on like you're what, 4 or 5 days a week, right?
Yeah, 3 days minimum. Sometimes I'll do a fourth,
Cool. Well, I'll be happy to come back on there sometime soon. So let's set that up. And
man,
thanks for hanging with us tonight. People, check the episode description for all the various ways you can support the podcast. Thank you, Laura, for that super chat. Any other super chatters? Now's the time. And thank you. You can super chat Gabe on Cash App at $SlickDissident. And you can get Biofield tunings with me that you might want to consider hopping on sooner than later, because I'm going to get a little busier soon in October. And the session availability might be a little delayed, but we'll get you in. So thanks everybody for coming and hanging out in the live chat. We got the best community here. Didn't have to ban anybody. Nobody's comment I had to look at sideways. Everybody's getting it. Everybody's beautiful, loving, awesome. You guys are the best. We'll see you for the next one. Oh, and patrons, don't forget about the new episode of Inner World with me and Dylan. Really good stuff. That's a essential watch. All right. Good night, everybody.
Big love, y'all.